Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. Jake and Justin back on the mics here for you all as we near our 40th episode of this season, being our fourth season, the team's third season. It's been quite a ride, Justin. I feel like we've been going downhill for the better part of this season and a lot of last season as well. And we're ready for some brighter days. And I think we see some glimpses here and there, but there's always some positivity in the world. So what's on your mind, Justin? What's going on?
Yeah, Jake, it has been quite a downturn for us, and I know we usually go into the what are you watching? So just real quick, want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is the League's Cup, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. It's the what? I guess that make it the quarterfinals. So you have Orlando play, or I'll start off on the earliest game. You have Miami playing Tigres at 7 p.m. Orlando plays at 7:50. LA Galaxy plays at 10:45 p.m. This is all Central Time, and then Seattle at 10 o'clock. So that's the quarterfinals. That's going to be on Apple tomorrow night, Wednesday, August 20th. If you want to catch those, I think that's something I've been trying to be more attuned into, obviously, because I think we've been doing pretty well from an MLS perspective. And I'm excited to see if these guys can actually hold on to it, because you just play the Liga Mekki side on the phase one. Now we're into we're going to play the Liga Mekkis again, but if you win, maybe we'll have a couple. We could have all four MLS teams in the semifinals, which would be cool. I highly doubt it. But it would be cool to keep an eye on. And then, Jake, I mentioned this to you earlier as well, but want to give a quick shout out. We have an organization that is close to us that we like to kind of talk about as well. So this is the Project Wake Up annual Ryan Candace golf tournament. So this is going to be on Saturday, October 11th. The early bird special is $700 for a foursome. And yeah, that sounds steep. But when you look at what you're getting on this one, Jake, you get lunch, snacks, beer, seltzer, soft drinks, all of this stuff. And so the one thing I want to mention on that is also that's the early bird special. That ends on Monday. All the proceeds are going to support the Ryan J. Candace Memorial Scholarship, supporting students pursuing careers in mental health and social work, a field that is underserved and desperately in need to be able to provide help for the mentally ill and those in crisis situations across Missouri. So, Jake, I didn't even tell you I'm going to do this, but if any one of our listeners signs up a foursome before next Monday, I'm going to put $200 towards their foursome. So if you sign up, you'd get that early bird special of $700. I'll knock that down to $500 for you. Now you're looking at four with you and three of your buddies going out and playing golf for $125, and you will get that lunch, snacks, beer, seltzer, and soft drinks all throughout the entire day. And then also, if you don't get in by Monday, that'll go up to $800. I'll still throw $200 at it. So anybody that signs up, DM us, show us that you Venmo'd, and you can scan the code below if you want to register, or you can Venmo them the registration fee at Project Wake Up, or by emailing wakeupdocumentary@gmail.com.
Oh man, dropping bombs on us here, Jay Graham. Okay, so what an offer, man. That's awesome generosity. It sounds like an awesome cause. I've heard of the event before. I had never known like the kind of style it was or the actual purpose, but it sounds amazing. So yeah, hopefully everyone takes a tune here. Consider signing up, and Justin, you're going to help them out.
Yeah, Jake. And then the other cool thing they do a helicopter golf ball drop to kick things off. And so you get to put your name or number on a golf ball, and they drop it towards a golf hole. And if your ball goes in, then you end up winning a prize money. I believe last year it was like $700 back in your pocket. So if anybody can't see it on YouTube, go look at it. But yeah, Jake, basically all I said was you got a foursome. If you want to sign up, I will be willing to donate $200 towards your foursome and reduce that cost. So feel free to DM us that. The tournament is on Saturday, October 11th. It is the annual Ryan Candace Memorial Golf Tournament for Project Wake Up.
You know who's not going to be at Project Wake Up annual golf tournament, Justin? Zonde Silva will not be able to attend this year, unfortunately. Not even with us for a full year, right? We just learned today that he had been transferred away to the Israeli Premier League team, Tel Aviv, or Hapoel Tel Aviv FC, and that's subject to completion of his medical and whatnot. But it's going to happen. Obviously spent a really mixed bag of a time with us in terms of, like moments or flashes there of brilliance that we saw how he could glide with the ball and what he could offer us. And then just a lot of inconsistency and some mental lapses mixed up in there. But I wish him the best. He's coming off the books. He had quite an expensive salary. So that will be a relief for us, even if we don't get some sort of transfer, which we have not heard of. But I wish him the best. It was short, sweet. And then we flipped on the backside of that international roster spot, before deadline day here, to the Fire, Chicago Fire, for $150,000 in general allocation money, green eggs and ham. And that's that. Now you have two that we had before. We had two after Silva. We transferred one away. We still have one we're sitting on. I don't know if we're going to use it here as this window comes to a close. But Justin, your thoughts on the selling? We do retain a sell-on fee as well, which is interesting with Silva. But what are your thoughts on that general kind of acquisition?
Not surprised whatsoever. If you go back and look at it, which I don't even know if we talked about, I forgot where I saw it. It might have been Baker that mentioned it, but didn't even get in on the friendly game against Aston Villa. So that speaks volumes of where his positioning was. And honestly, Jake, without seeing him much on the field, I think we had a couple highs and a lot of lows, especially on the defensive front and being a little bit too selfish. I have a feeling this guy was probably a locker room problem and probably didn't fit in with the guys. Probably thought too big for his own britches. So, we're just going to ship him out to Israel. So, I mean, good for us be able to get the quick $150K before the transfer window closes on this Thursday, August 21st. So just turning free money back to us, but no, not surprised whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I totally agree. It's kind of a meh sort of transaction for us, but we got something, so I'm happy about that. Let's get in, Justin, to the ever-dwindling Schmickens Injury Law Firm. Ball-watching STL injury reports. Unlike our boys in red, an injury off the pitch shouldn't have been your life. The Schmickens Injury Law Firm fights to obtain fair compensation for people who have been injured in car wrecks, trip and fall cases on the job. If you or someone you know may have been injured, give Rob a call at 314-222-4223 to discuss your case, mentioning us, Ball Watching Boys, for a free consultation. And you remember, you won't pay unless Rob wins your case. So make sure you give him a call at 314-222-4223. Shout out to Rob. He was one of the guys that had texted me. I know you as well, Justin, when I had announced that we had our child. So he's just that type of guy. So Rob's got you in your personal life and anything you have on the injury law firm front. So make sure you give him a consideration in any sort of these cases. Justin, this thing's getting smaller and smaller. Week by week recently, we saw only two players be out in this one, with Michael Wenzel and Teuscher both being out, but reported as in training as of today. So we could be looking at a totally healthy roster, obviously barring Rasmus Holm, who's out, for the whole rest of the season. But this could be it for us.
Which is kind of insane and sad. Jake, to be honest, since we started as a club, I don't know if we've ever had no one on the injury roster. We can go back and dig on this, but if it was, it had to have been like in our first 5 games when we were winning all of our games. That's the only thing I could think of, because last season we obviously had Klaus. Klaus missed 2/3 of the game just on his own. So I'm pretty excited about that. But Jake, it does still beg into the question of, he's fully healthy. What's going on with Thomas Totland? I'm sharing screen real quick on Chat City Tactics. Did a nice little comparison of Thomas Totland versus Orozco, and showing kind of where they line up in the last 365 days. And you could see how much more well balanced. I feel like I just threw a bunch of adjectives or adverbs in there, that Thomas Totland is over Orozco, and yet Thomas Totland still isn't seeing the field. Saw a couple comments from Critchley. He thinks he's a little bit on a downturn. What are your thoughts here, Jake?
You can see my comment in here, Justin. If you're watching this on YouTube, I commented, maybe a slight bit of nepotism going on here, because for everyone wondering why I say that, obviously Critchley was City 2 coach prior to this, and Yaziel Orozco was signed this year. He had made his debut in RSL. He went on, I think, a loan into Ireland. Now we picked him up in City 2, got him elevated to the first team, and you got the current City 2 coach of the first team. Definitely going to show a little bit of a bias, I would say, towards some of those players that he was in the trenches with, frankly, before. And I think a little bit of that is normal. But when you have a right back of Thomas Totland's caliber just sitting on the bench for games, not a game, games now, because, Orozco scored a goal last week and had, a good game by many standards. I don't think he's blown us out of the water, but he's been nice for the value that we thought he would provide. He's definitely outperformed that. I don't think that should just make you sit Totland on a freezing cold bench for this many games, especially when he can contribute. We can see him moving forward. He's a good defender as well. He brings so much, and I don't even think he's been considered.
No, and that's where I want to get away from this whole thing, Jacob. People saying oh, now that we have Song Bin, we need a defender that needs to be sitting back and needs to be holding more. So that's why Totland's out. Totland's a professional. The man can understand that, hey, we've had you got forward a lot earlier in the season when we were creating chances. Now, if you want to get minutes, we're going to need you to play a little bit more defense, and he'll still get his chances to go up and back. That doesn't mean that he can't go forward, and a guy like Morales or Durkin or Leuven can't slide over into that spot and hold while he's up. So I don't believe in this whole thing of, oh, Roscoe's way better defender. We need him to be that rock there and that's going to hold there, and we can't trust Tolan because he gets up too much. Like, no, the man is not a child. He understands how soccer works, and he can hold back in there and work as a wingback. So in my opinion, he is our guy right now, and he needs to be our guy going forward. So he needs to get more minutes because Padelford is on loan. Orozco, City 2. Like, if you're talking about a guy that has been a mainstay for us at right back, let those two guys battle out at left back and give me Tolan back on the right.
Yeah, and we saw Wallum play there in this last game off the bench. But, I would even take that, but I still want Tolan over Wallum. I know they're just trying to find the right spot for Wallum, but I heard that in the press conference after this match against Chicago. Critchy's talking about, wanting to find the best places to plug and play Wallum. And I'm like, I get it, because he's such a versatile player. But if you're not going to have him past this season, why are we doing these things in the back office trying to figure out a place for someone that's not going to be here as a long-term fixture? So I want to see, if they're doing that, maybe there are plans to pick him up, purchase him, permanently now, which is great. That's fine, but I don't think he's a natural fit on any really position on this 4-2-3-1 setup, if that holds over from whoever the new coach becomes. But I think we've seen a little bit of the Critchley maybe weakness on this side of things. Just, again, a general sort of gravitation towards some of these players where I love giving them minutes, but I also want to see those that are going to be with us, and good, they're quality players like Tolan. He's been a fan favorite in the time that he's been here. I know he's been one of our favorites, Justin. So I want to see him get into form, reach that level that we know he's capable of getting. And that doesn't matter if the games don't matter anymore. Even more onus, go find what you should be and ready to hit the ground next season.
Yeah, and I don't want to tie this too much into it, but you saw what happened when we just thought Miggy Perez was it, and we just played him and played him and played him. And I think that I don't want this to turn into that, but that's the only kind of the connection I can make with this. And then we had a little bit with Jay Reed, but he was more of a plug and play, and I thought he did fine there. He never did enough to be able to say that he's deserving of a starting spot. Orozco's done that. Orozco's also had some really bad mistakes. I think the first couple of games were like, hey, it's early. These mistakes aren't that bad, but if we're going to start throwing him out there full 90s, he's got a couple handballs, a couple poor mistakes, and giving up PKs. In my opinion, there's no reason why Thomas Tolan should not be the starter at right back. So, yeah. And obviously, as we already mentioned, he wasn't in this game. So if we go across the Hoffman brothers starting 11 against Chicago, we had Berkey and Net, who ended up staying in Chicago for the Bears game the next day, if you saw that, with his fiance. Then we have Padelford on the left, Baumgartel, Kessler, Orozco. Great to see King Kess back. Leuven and Durkin in front of them. That's the mainstay that we've always thought. I want to touch on what your thoughts were on the sub later on in the game. And then in front of them is what we've been going with, I believe, now for our third game in a row, or at least our second game in a row. Hartel, Ostrak, Sungbin, and Klaus.
Yeah, no, I thought the 11 was pretty good. I know you and I put Tolan at right back in our predictions, or at least what should have been. Goes back to Orozco here. I think he worded it as giving him a nice reward for the performance he put in the prior week. Durkin returns to health, Kessler returns to health, so you put them both back in starting. Makes sense. Maybe you could have argued to have Fall in the mix with Kessler, maybe not Baumgartel. But Durkin gets the start next to Leuven. Ostrak gets another start at 10, which I wasn't blown away by because he played in the last game, but didn't really necessarily knock anyone, socks off in that position either. But wasn't bad either. And you have Sangbin and Klaus. So a lot of the usual suspects. My eye, Justin, was trying to see on how they more fold in Hartel into the attack in this game, because how quiet he was in the last match when he was kind of stuck out on the left flank. He can have so much influence in the game when he's able to kind of invert and come inside and free up maybe Ostrak to make that overlapping run, or Padelford, whoever that might be. We just didn't see enough of him in the last game prior to Chicago. I saw more of that here. Obviously not enough, but he had a contributory role in the goals.
Yeah, he did. And I think, Jake, you and I were talking about this. We've got a couple highlights of low outside side of the goals, but we've got 5 different goals to talk about, plus a VAR handball. Plus, we want to do the preview. And I think there's a lot that we want to kind of loop in on stats that we've seen kind of floating around on Twitter and that we pulled together ourselves. So might just hop straight into this one. I know we were saying Chicago was in possession early on. We were playing a little pressure. But early on, Jake, we already give up a goal in the 15th minute. So ball's possessed out of our left flank, played through an overlapping Gutum into Kuipers, timed run off of Baumgartel's shoulder and opens up his leg for the finish. Jake, on this one, I don't have it up, and I meant to have this ready to roll, but shame automatically goes to Baumgartel on this one. If you watch when the ball gets played wide, he does what he's supposed to do. He's got about a maybe 2 or 3 yard head start on Kuipers. And then he looks over his shoulder, see where he's at. He's like, all right, I got him by 2 yards. I'm good. I'm going to keep jogging back. And no, you should not be jogging at that point, because right when the ball is played in, that's when Kuipers, am I saying this right? Kuipers?
I think it's Kuipers.
Sure. Thank you. Kuipers is like, I'm making a dead sprint for the goal, and Baumgartel is just left in the dust and an easy tap in for him. That immediately, Jake, needs to be one for Baumgartel, to where I would want him to continue to drop, get on his shoulder, and then it should be an easy clearance. If not easy, a sliding clearance, at least out for a corner kick or something like that. But this goal is automatically all on Baumgartel, in my opinion.
Yeah, not a great look on that first goal, and it's in the first 15 minutes. You're away from home. You're in Chicago. There's some bit of rivalry there just because of the cities. So not a great start. I saw a couple flashes of some individual moments from some of our defenders early in the game with Kessler. Again, welcome back, man. We missed you. Just being able to occupy so much more of a role when it comes to passing in that position. I saw him take a ball and fizz it 30 yards through the middle third and into an attacker's feet from our back line. That's breaking lines passes. That's Henry Kessler in a nutshell, what we've been sorely missing. I think Baumgartel brings a little bit of element to that too. So I do give him his kudos, but he's a little more of an aggressive passer, maybe. But Padelford also some good moments, breaking up a counter, using his pace. Man, he can definitely get on his horse as well. Get back some tight defending and stifle Zinkernagel, because they were definitely bringing it to us in that first half. There were some nervy moments we caught Chicago. I don't think a lot of discomfort, frankly, man. It was really lackluster from us in the attack front. They were winning all the loose balls, all the second balls. Klaus was having to come deeper and deeper. We remember that, it looks like, right? Just he's almost out of the game because he feels like he's drop back and try to create something from nothing. Then you hit the halftime, and you're not feeling great if you're a City fan.
No, absolutely not. And this is one, Jake, that I think that we needed to be coming out hot after an hour and a half rain delay. The Chicago team, it's taken any atmosphere that there could have been at this, God forbidden, wherever they played, since they couldn't play a Soldier because the Bears were there the next day. And we had a chance to kind of jump on them. However, we let 45 minutes go by. But then we're like, hey, now's our chance to jump on them. In the 46th minute, Berkey goes long to Klaus, who holds it up for Sengbin. He kind of gets a cut out there in the final possession of the third. Leuven dances. It's on the left half, like upper left corner of the box, and ends up kind of dropping it off to Padelford, who sends a great cross into the top of the box, where Ostrak does what we always talk about with him dancing, usually in the middle of the third, where I'm like, man, just get it off your foot. I'm fine with him doing this in the box, because then he ultimately gets it on his left and hits into a nice, about chest-high side netter, and that is great composure from him.
Bro, I was so excited for him to do that. I was so pumped. Like, that was one of probably the biggest moments he's had at the club, I feel like, in his short playing time at City, but he's been here since the beginning. You guys know, I'm a stan. I like the man. I think he's got a great, toolkit to offer us. We know some of his limitations. We also know what he's capable of, and I think he's capable of some pretty special stuff. In that 10 role, obviously he gets that goal. He gets an assist on the other. He's really, I think, trying to earn that contract here, trying to stick around, make a case for himself, because he's been overlooked. He's been injured. He hasn't performed in some matches. He's got bullied. But this year, Justin, these last couple of weeks, he's got a bite to him, and he's got a real attitude about how he carries himself on there. And I'm excited to see this guy emerging, because maybe if you hang on to Olaf, or Christian doesn't give chances to more guys, more of a meritocracy out there, maybe you don't get to see this level of Ostrak. But I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, Jake, if you look at it, that he actually has less minutes than Henry Kessler. Like, when you think about it, this is a guy that when he does get his time, he is trying to show out, because he has not been a part of the mainstay of the team. He's played in 18 games, started 11 of them, but it feels like that hasn't been more until as of recent, when he's getting up there and getting, of his 870 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and say, and I'm going to click on this and see what his match log is. I'm going to say probably a third of that has come in the last 3 weeks.
60 minutes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
57, 70, 77, 71, 66, 63. That's just since July. So this man has had over half his minutes with the club this season since July, in the last 6 weeks. So he's coming on strong and really making a case for himself.
Yeah, and he gets another hand in our second goal, right? So we had the equalizer that you walked us through, and then we go up again a couple minutes later, just about 13 in the 59th minute, with Wallem and Ostrak. Now Wallem in the game for Orozco, do all the combined down the right. Both those guys are very capable dribblers, probably the best dribblers on our team. And they combine well down the right channel. Ostrak plays a back post cross that somehow kind of gets knocked down, very fortunately, into the path of Hartel, who just puts the boot through it into the upper netting. You love to watch it. That's a couple times he's done it this season now. He's not about like the little dink into the corner or the finesse finish. There's no RBB with Marcel Hartel. He is going full B all the way. This is a FIFA reference for those that are missing it. But I mean, the guy just pile drives whatever he can in the back of the net, and it works.
I just want to make sure, Jake, that you're inclusive here. If that's for an Xbox, if you want to go PS5, you can go with an R100 on that as well, and drill this one in the back of the net. I'm very glad that ball went in, Jake, because did you see where Sang Bin was? Right at the PK spot, wide open, calling for it. Would have been absolutely livid. Great finish by Marcel Hartel. It was great to see us get one back because we definitely thought at that point, all right, now we got a little momentum.
Yeah, didn't last long, right? I mean, didn't last more than 8 minutes. As Chicago, Leuven made a crunching tackle on Gutierrez, and Durkin played Klaus. What I kind of looked at more as like a hospital pass, like nothing he's going to do well with. Not because of the pace, just because of the situation. No one supports him for it. He coughs the ball up. Zinkernagel ends up on the ball and takes it the whole way into our box, where Leuven can't keep up with him now, being gassed already. And Falls just got dunced on the back line, and they score. It was a really nice goal from Brian Gutierrez. He'll add that one to the highlight reel 100%. And a really bad-looking goal for us in terms of defense. It looked pretty abysmal. A lot of guys not moving their feet quick enough, not being on the same page, guys tired. It was not a good look, and Chicago now pulls level and had momentum for the last half hour of the game.
Yeah, Jake, this was a bad goal, and I'm going to go ahead and go with a...
Shame! Shame!
That's a shame on Baumgartel on this one, Jake, and I'm going to show you why. Here's the pause in the freeze frame right here as the guy's escaping Leuven from the midfield. Look at where he's at. Why is he continuing to drop right here? And watch as this plays out, continues to drop even further. Then the attacker's like, well, if you're going to give me this open gap between him and Fall, I'm going to make that run and take you with me so that the guy driving can ultimately just take Fall on one-on-one. And he keeps dropping. You cannot give this 5 yards of space right here on Baumgartel, because then guess what, Jake? Right here, after Fall gets absolutely stunced and stuck in concrete, this is where Baumgartel should be. Level with him and taking away the cut on the inside. However, he's at the PK spot when this is at the top of the 18. I believe that's a 6-yard difference, and he's not going to be able to get up there to block this shot, and then it ends up going in the back of the net. So on this one, Jake, it's a mixture of two things. One, mostly Baumgartel. Two, I'm a little nervous about this. It's happened not only once so far this season. Love what Fall's been doing, but the man cannot move his feet very well. That was absolutely stuck in concrete. If you pause that, it looks like he just built a statue of himself, like doing one of those like praying mantis poses. Like, what is this when he's absolutely falling over on this? Terrible defense, but ultimately, I'm going to blame this one on Baumgartel again.
Yeah, that was a great analysis, by the way. There was a lot wrong with that one. It was a bad look. Even watching the instant replay, I was just like, oof, putting that head down. And like I said, Chicago kind of kept it moving after that. We did get a PK called for us, Justin. I don't know if you want to speak too much to it, but the call on the field was good for us. There was a PK called on the field, which usually sets a pretty high bar or precedent for VAR than to overturn. It has to be clear and obvious the call on the field was incorrect. And they do successfully, very quickly, overturn this one upon review. I know there were some comments about it post-game. I don't think there was a lot of buzz about it, Justin. Do you have any strong or hurt feelings about it?
No, the one thing that, to your point, Jake, it was surprising to me that if you call it on the field, that's the rare side. Usually it doesn't get called on the field, and then they go to VAR to check it. But on this one, it was called on the field and then overturned. I personally don't think it was a PK. I'm kind of surprised that he called it on the field originally, because it does feel like the arm was tucked in. Yeah, it might be a little bit away from his body, but it wasn't out here. If you saw the Tim Parker one from this weekend, very different situation. And this one just seemed a little bit more in the gray area. But to your point, calling it on the field, then you have to overturn it. Yeah. And I was slightly surprised, but not a big deal.
So they got their final goal, the eventual winner, late on. What else is new, right? In the 88th minute, as Zinkernagel, I think, did a really good job of trying to suck in Leuven and Morales close together, left it back for Brian Gutierrez, and there was no one there to pressure it as he curled this one in. This one, Justin, was a bit of a softie. Definitely some defensive errors in my mind. I'm sure you're showing us right now. But I also I think it was a soft goal for Berkey to give up as well. I didn't hear anyone chatting about it online after, and maybe that's deservedly so, right? Like, I'm not going to have a lot of qualms when he's putting in performances very, very solid always, and he has maybe like one blip like this in a game that I think we would have buckled anyway in. So I'm not going to hear gripe about it, but I do think that he just dove over this ball. He had the coverage, didn't get the hand down, and I think he looked at himself. You saw his reaction. Something was off there. Usually he's holding folks accountable. This one felt like he was internalizing it because he knew he could have done better.
Yeah, because this one didn't even have its laces put through it. It was off the inside of the foot from probably about 22 yards out. So I have it freeze frame here because there's a couple guys that I want to call out on this one. One is Morales. You can see him right here. Just watch him, Jake, on this one. This jogging is unacceptable. I do not know what you were doing here. And then not only does he jog there, Jake, but then he just gets back and like, yep, I'm going to take my spot, and I'm not going to help with the current situation at hand, which is defending this goal. And he stands just right there. And just like, what do you do? He's telling Volum, like, why are you not helping this guy? I think that's a terrible job by Morales and terrible defense. You'll get that in the film room. Second one right here. Also, I think Leuven is pretty lazy in this as well. I don't know if it's too late, but watch him standing at the top of the 18. Yeah, it's like you don't need to do anything right now. You see this ball laid off? He doesn't step up. He goes just immediately sideways as well. And so from all of these things, it happens in the midfield. I don't think that our back line did anything too poor here. But then to your point, look at where Berkey's at on this. This ball goes underneath of him. It was not very well hit. Yes, it was well placed, but I think Berkey wants that one back.
Yeah. And there you have it.
We lose.
Yeah, there you have it. We lose from a winning position again. We concede very, very late on again. I don't really have much to say anymore, right? I mean, there was a couple general things I think we wanted to say about the game, Justin. I think for me, I was watching the beginning especially, and I'm seeing – so long balls, right? Like those are an option when it comes to attack. They're a way to get the defense turned around and moving back forward upfield, and maybe you can put them under pressure. I get it. I get the purpose of long balls. I think we were really, really leaning on it super heavily in the first half, and they were always like the longest of long balls, like Berkey playing it way out of the back, Baumgartner way out of the back, super low percentage opportunities. I think we should be more selective about taking that as an option because it becomes predictable and it becomes just kind of like us conceding possession, like a very, very small chance of us retaining balance on the ball here. I think the story of the game, Justin, could maybe have been the midfield trio of Leuven, Durkin, and Ostrak, because I think if you'd have told me those three were starting, I would not have come out of that game saying, I think Ostrak will be the best midfielder on the pitch tonight. But he was, and I also think that wasn't that hard for him because Leuven and Durkin did not look great, especially together. They were losing duels. Durkin, I mean, the passing was wayward. Not a good performance from him. I know he's rusty, needs game time. But Leuven had an off match for me.
Yeah, and I think it's tough when you're Leuven. Durkin should be your defensive mainstay there, and if he's the one losing duels, I think it's in the back of your mind that you don't have the freedom to float like you have historically in this game and something like that. So one last one, Jake. It was a positive here, but I'm going to actually turn it into a negative. Sorry, negative Nancy. This ball by Sangbin into Betcher. One, great run by Betcher here, running in behind. I absolutely love it. Great ball, does well here. He fights it off, drops to Hartel. You can see Betcher's wide open. Yeah, he probably should have dished it to him. Here, keep watching Betcher, Jake.
I saw it.
Really pissed me off. Watch this, and look at this freeze frame. Hand on the head. The play is still going on, my man. And Hartel still has the ball, and guess where this ball goes next, Jake? Falls to Betcher. Maybe if you were paying attention, you would have put this one away. But instead, goes off the outside of the post. Why don't you just – what is up with our dudes just not finishing plays out and throwing their hands on their head? Like, do you realize that this game is in the 90th plus 5 and you have a chance to win it for your team, but you're going to stand there and put your hand on the head and then literally doesn't take them off until it falls to his feet?
You know, I totally 1,000% agree with, like, how are we doing this? I'm trying to rationalize it, man, because my only thing that maybe at this point is like almost like what do they call that? Stockholder syndrome or a Stockholm syndrome, where like we're kind of just at peace, you know, not being in control of our own destiny here. Like a little bit woe is me attitude sometimes, a little bit we're just so unlucky, and probably why we're blowing these games like we are, which we'll talk about here in a second, Justin. I just think I know that like the guys like each other. It sounds like they like Critch, but I do not think we have a great personality as a team right now. There's some good apples. There are probably some bad apples in there too, but the face we put on to the opposition does not scare anyone at all. And I think I'll get off my soapbox for a second. We'll talk more about that here, Justin, in a second. But what were your thoughts on it?
I agree with you. I don't think Chris has lost the locker room. I think the whole locker room is just a little down right now. And obviously, right? But we've talked about this. I think the one thing that you need to do and have a locker room is a team it's easy to have fun in the locker room, stay high when you're winning. When you're losing is what do we do in these moments? And I'm hoping that Leuven is helping drive that. I'm hoping Klaus is helping drive that. And one guy that I think that usually also helps drive that is Celio. But Celio is probably having a hard time keeping his head high right now as well, because Jake, looking at his minutes, he had 23 minutes versus the Fire, 20 minutes versus Nashville. He had 2 random starts before that for Minnesota and Portland, but then a sub for 19 minutes. This man has been kind of all over the board the last couple of weeks, and that's a guy that I would like to see have that momentum, enjoying the game. And it's ever since Sangbin has came here, I think that's tough for him because that's the guy that you always see smiling. When was the last time you saw City post a smiling Celio?
Oh,
We used to get it
in a while.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, these guys are having a tough time. We're not in a good spot. We're not going to make the playoffs. But Celio is a guy that you got to keep that momentum going, that Energizer Bunny. But if he's down, I have a feeling the whole locker room's down.
Well, why are they down, Justin? Let's maybe start from there. Like I mentioned, it's another 3 points dropped from a winning position in this game. 24 points now dropped this season out of 26 games played. Do the math. About 1 point we're dropping per match from a winning position. That's insane. And it's not just like this was all Olaf era either. I'm going to draw a line there, Justin. So you saw it in our notes. So when Critch was elevated to interim head coach, he's had 11 games so far. He's dropped 11 points from winning positions. This is not an Olaf problem or solely an Olaf problem. This is a current problem, and it's embarrassing. Points won or lost after the 75th minute. Who has the magic in the league? We have won 0 games after the 75th minute. The only team in the league to not do so. Justin, Taylor Twellman's putting us on blast, basically on roast on a low flame, but over a long amount of time, talking about these goals we're conceding late on. We know it, right? After the 60th minute, most in MLS. After the 75th, most in MLS. After the 80th, second most in MLS. So we got partially spared there. Guys, we need help. We need someone with experience, with backbone, with resilience that can change what's going on here. I don't think it's just players. Like, we are beyond repair mentally, I feel like, when it comes to how we can handle being in a winning, sort of saddle position, because we appear unorganized, we appear at our worst, we look tired, we look scared. And these stats are not the company you want to be in.
No. And I want to take a step back and you're never going to win every game where you're leading, right? So that's 24 to 26 points. But Jake, quick reasonableness test. My number for you here is 35. 35 is the number of minutes that it would take for us to have just lockdown defense to be 1 point off of a wild card spot if we would have just played 35 minutes of defense in 4 separate games. Those games specifically. LAFC, 1 minute is where I'm going to add it in because we let up a goal in the 90th plus 5. That dropped us by 2 points. Sporting Kansas City, 13 minutes. They scored in the 77th minute. That dropped us another 2 points. Minnesota, we had the lead with 5 minutes left. We let up 2 goals starting in the 85th, dropped 3 points there. And then lastly, Minnesota again, 16 minutes. We let up a goal in the 74th minute, and that let up the 3 points as well after that on. So we were winning in the 74th minute. So again, 1 minute, 13 minutes, 5 minutes, 16 minutes, 4 games, a total of 35 minutes. We had to play defense. We would be 1 point off of the wild card spot.
I love it. I love how we broke it down there, just because it's very, very dark, right? Like, those are bad numbers, and it's the fine margins. 35 minutes of gut wrenching, soul pounding, digging in with your teammates, and not allowing to be breached. And we can't hold together those 35 minutes. But those 35 minutes are the difference between long life after the regular season and not. And frankly, we just obviously don't deserve it at this point. But Justin, do we want to talk any more about Chicago Fire? Should we kind of break into Vancouver? What do you have?
The one thing I was going to say, Jake, was shout out, and Kevin put this in there. Shout out to the fans that went and stuck. Obviously, if you're going to there, you're going to stick out that hour and a half rain delay, but it doesn't make the game any more fun. And then obviously seeing a heartbreaking one like that. So I do want to give them a quick shout out. And then Jake, I want to touch on this real quick. Just as you mentioned that this is not just a Critchley thing. It wasn't just an Olaf thing. I'm going to share screens for what Mike cooked up at Chat St. Patrick's and quickly talk through this, Jake. So for anybody that can't see this, Mike is an absolute nerd. He gave himself that term. I would call him that anyways. He is an absolute nerd, and he came up with a new stat of X points. So we got like XG, X goal against. Came up with X points. I'm like, Mike, he sent me the formula for this. I don't know what it is. He said is using Poisson distribution model based on XG and XGA. And I'm like, all right, man, can you actually just put this into like a second grade picture book for me? And he said, yeah, it's a matrix of goals 0, 0, 2, 1, etc. to determine the probability of goals scored based on the match of XG and XGA. And he said, so for Chicago, our X points, so expected points for that game was a 1.15. So we would expect it to tie, which I would agree when you're looking at that. For another example, Nashville, 1.24. Minnesota, 1.19. FC Dallas, when we got done, 3-0, 0.5. So obviously this is making sense. He said the most surprising stat here, Jake, we've only surpassed 2+ X points this season, meaning we absolutely dominated the game. You know when that happened? It was our match day 1 versus Colorado.
Oh. No, Justin, again, visually right now, anyone that's watching, this is the value. But Mike will include this in his write-up that he puts out this week. So go reference there at Chat City Tactics. I thought, Justin, the break that he did between the seasons and then also with the coaches was one of the most telling things for me for the coaches, because a lot of people want to, it sounds like from Mike's polls, swear in Critchley for next year. We talked about it last show. I think that is highly unlikely. But if you look at what Mike's come up with here, the expected points for us to retrieve in the 11 games played under David Critchley so far, 21. We were expected to retrieve 21 points during that time. That's a pretty good haul over 11 games. So that's not bad, especially for an interim. We've gotten 10 of those 21. So underperformance is the name of the game here. You can see us in the expected goals. You know, he's really made a big difference there. We're turning out an average XG of 1.62, but we've also thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And you look at our expected goals against of 1.83. That's the second highest of any coach ever in City's short history under John Hackworth. So it's kind of like we've got the offense pumping. The defense is really struggling to stay afloat here. And we're just generally not getting results, like not churning out results. So it tells a little bit more of an objective picture over the tenures of each of the coaches.
And I'm sure I absolutely butchered trying to explain how Mike did this. So again, please, he's going to be dropping his write-up on this. It's probably likely going to be Friday is what he was saying. So everybody needs to go to @ChatCityTactics on Twitter. He also has Instagram. I don't think he uses it very often. I'll have to help him with that. But on Twitter, he does a hell of a write-up, and he'll explain what this means. But Jake, that's a great call out. In 11 games, our expected points was 21. We ended up with 10. And again, friends, this is not expected like going into the game. This is taking the entire game into consideration on how we played. And we should have walked away with 21 points. And that kind of ties directly into how we've blown these leads and the points that we've given up when we are in a leading position.
And we're looking down the barrel of another good team in this league, and it's going to be stiff. The matchup against Vancouver will be this Saturday. The last match we had against them was a 0-0 draw earlier on the season in April. That was here at home. Backline consisted of 3 faces we have not seen in a while in Yarrow, Hebert, and Watts. That was funny to look back on the lineup. But we did hold them off the board, right? But Vancouver, third in the West right now on 46 points, 13, 6, and 7 win-loss draw, 44 goals for, 29 against, a plus 15 goal differential, tied for the least amount of goals conceded in the West. And they're tied for second in the overall league. Goals for, also humming, tied third in the West, number 7 in MLS. And they're cruising even outside the league as well, Justin.
I know, but sorry, Jake, I was looking at this. I was trying to find the odds, and I couldn't do it quick enough. There's no chance this game will end 0-0. I can promise you that right now, the way that team's scoring, the way we're playing. But outside of the MLS, they've had a hell of a year. So they made it to the Champions League, the Champions Cup final back on June 1st, and then got absolutely dismantled by Cruz Azul, 5-0. It was 4-0 at halftime. That's a tough one. But they're also currently playing in the semifinal for the Canadian Championship tournament, where they just drew at Forge FC 2-2 in the first leg. I think the next leg is like first or second week of September. So nothing in between where they're playing a midweek, but a team that's playing games outside of a regular season. Like that sounds nice, doesn't it, Jake? I would love
it does.
A little bit of a run outside of something in the regular season. Not us. They're doing all right. What are their biggest results for when they are at home this season? They are 7-3-2 because we're going on the road. 7-3-2 overall this regular season. What are they doing at home against the top teams? Jake, they have this, and we have a couple that were in here, and I think I don't know if I deleted it out, but they haven't done that well against the top 4 teams in the MLS. So they had a 3-5 L for San Diego. They had a 3-0 dub versus Seattle. And then they also had a 3-0 dub versus Sporting Kansas City in the West as well. Their most recent match was a 1-1 draw versus Houston, who's 12th in the West.
They're coming in a little bit limping here, Justin. I mean, I've been a great team. I think a lot of that bolstered by their early performances. We know in this league, those that do play outside of the league, right, in these Champions Cup or US Open Cup runs can get a little leggy towards the end of the season, right? Like you've seen just the wheels come off a Seattle team after winning the what was that one iteration called? The CONCACAF Champions League. When they won that, they were horrible in MLS play for the rest of the season, but it was worth it, right? You're seeing these teams, I think, start to feel a little bit leggy towards the end. Vancouver could be one of them. Last 6, they're number 16 in the league at 2-2-2. Last 10 games, number 20 in the league at 3-2-5 win, draw, loss. But they've been magical this season, man. New head coach, Jesper Sorensen, just has them set up in a really super disciplined sort of 4-3-3 base formation. Very effective. Been that almost the entire season. And then when they kind of get in the attack, they they kind of move fluidly between more of that 4-3-3 and like a 3-2-5 or a 3-4-3, really kind of setting up to get more bodies in the attack and really just poke and prod at their opponents because this team's good. In possession, they attack through very controlled possession sequences. We love Berhalter, not just Greggy, but also Sebastian. We saw him get a lot of reps with the men's national team. He is a key cog in the system for Vancouver. And like I said, they have that kind of dual sort of formation. Justin, they're getting reinforced. We know that. But Brian White, the American, is having a great season as well. He's that lead striker, now being bolstered by none other than Thomas Mueller.
Yeah, Jake, I put a book about Thomas Mueller. We'll touch on that, on some of the people that you need to watch. But those are direct threats, obviously, with them. When you think about this, also, I mentioned this later on as well, but Berhalter and Brian White also called up to the U.S. men's national team this year. So 2 very strong pieces for them in the support, when they're on their attack. And they also have wing support. Their fullbacks, like Ocampo, push high, stretching the opposition, providing them. And ultimately, when they're on the ball, working through that buildup, they're getting their fullbacks how we would usually like to use Mr. Totland, up and around and into the attacking third as well. And then they also have that midfield linkage, usually through Berhalter, who offers in late runs in the box. And then I would also say from Badwal, having a little bit of a dynamic present there. And then also when they're having these, they look to get some set pieces because Berhalter was the one that was taking those for the U.S. men's national team earlier this summer.
Yeah, and we liked him too. I think he has some good delivery. Defensively, very compact. They have a good defensive spine. They really try to minimize or cut out those dangerous transition moments. They get a lot of block shots. They lead the MLS in allowing some of the fewest shots per game. So a lot of discipline, very effective at clogging up passing lanes. They have a good goalkeeper in Takaoka, who's had some great performances, just good cohesion along the back line, and just some muscle in midfield. And at home, they've been one of the better teams. Number 10 in the league this season, averaging 2 points per game. XG created number 9 in the league, but number 2 flexing at home. They're also way outperforming their XG as well. Expected goals against, number 6 in the league in terms of the best, right? Not the worst 6, but average at home. So a little bit more forthcoming at home defensively. Again, though, outperforming their expected goals against and their goals against. So a higher expected goals against to lower goals against. And in the halves, Justin, they're just like everything. First half, number 4 in the league, number 7 at home. Second half, number 5 in the league, number 9 at home. They're just one of those well-rounded, really good teams, and they're doing it on the field at home, which is, you and I both know, like look at 2023 for us, that's where you got to grind out your wins on the home turf, and they're doing that.
And Jake, I don't know if you meant to say it on purpose, but it's literally on the home turf. It's not grass. Yeah. We're playing up on turf when we go up there as well. So what are we going to have to do to try to disrupt these guys? I feel like we just basically gave a highlight of why they're going to absolutely smoke us. But if we want to do that, we got to disrupt their build-up play. Because we've already talked about this, they go through Berhalter a lot. And so if we want to try to take him out of this, we're going to have him in our pocket. And Jake, that's where it's going to be interesting on where we want to think about this is he kind of sits and can sit a little bit deeper. So depending on if we're putting Ostrak again at the 10, he's going to be the guy that's going to have to be have a wherewithal where he's at. And it's going to take a lot of communication in that middle triangle if it's going to be a Leuven and a Durkin and an Ostrak or however we want to do that with Morales or possibly move people around. They're going to have to know where he's at because he's going to be looking to find those holes and those gaps between our midfield lines so that he can get the ball and spray it wide or try to line up a guy like Brian White to hit a nice shot right at the top of the 18.
Agreed. And I think we'll need to really also use those flanks. You mentioned, Justin, the fullbacks get up the field like we would like to see some of ours sometimes. That's going to leave space in behind. So if we can cut out any opportunities as they progress up the field and get those wings or those fullbacks higher up, can we get Sangbin behind? Can we get Stilio behind? Can Klaus make a darting diagonal run and really leverage or take advantage of that quickly? And, fast breaks or quick transitions. But you just got to break down this compact defense, whether that's teasing them apart through wide switches or long balls over the top or wide overloads, getting numbers out there. You got to just pull them out of their comfort zone. They've found, good gears throughout games. Can you just work to disrupt that, even ever so slightly there? But it's going to take a big performance, Justin, because they have some big players. And like I said, Thomas Muller joined the team, just getting onboarded basically as we'll have him here. But what a legend to welcome to the league. He's got like a great, I feel like, respect on his name worldwide as well. So big signing. I know he's getting up there, right, in terms of age here, but what an accomplished player.
Dude, I don't even care if he's getting up here in age. When I was doing the research for this, I knew that he was accomplished, Jake, but some of these stats that I'm going to rattle off, and I'm also going to, Jake, I'm just getting so good with the technical stuff here. I'm going to share. Did you see the goal that he scored against Houston that they ended up calling back?
No, I didn't.
Here it is right now. Dude, he came on and it was 2 minutes later. Watch this absolute banger at the top of the key. So while we're going through this, he scored that and then ended up getting called back because Brian White was offsides. I'll let the replay play through. But ultimately, Jake, what has he done in his career? What hasn't he done? He signed with Vancouver through the end of the season. He has an option for a DP next year. His club career, 25 years with Bayern Munich, 756 appearances, 250 goals, 238 assists. He won the Bundesliga title 13 times, which is the most by any single player all time. International career, 131 caps for Germany, 45 goals, 41 assists. He won the Golden Boot and Best Young Player in the 2010 World Cup, and the Silver Boot and the Silver Ball in 2014 World Cup, where he ended up winning the World Cup as well. He's also one of 15 players all time with double-digit goals in the World Cup, and he made his debut against the Dynamo and absolutely netted that banger, but unfortunately they called it back for Brian White being offsides. I can breathe.
It was an incredible goal. The replay was fantastic. I mean, again, what a legend to have in this league. You're hoping that he flies and, gets the extension here. We can see more of Thomas Muller because just a special player with a special history. But they've got more. One in Brian White, like I mentioned, had his U.S. men's national team call up this summer. 15 goals last 2 seasons, 13 this season so far on 26 shots on target, so very effective. Sebastian Berhalter was his teammate this summer at the Gold Cup camp for the U.S. men's national team. 24 years old, really coming into his own, having a breakout season for Vancouver, and just the heart of that midfield. We saw a lot of leadership from him in the men's national team jersey as well. So that if people want to poke fun at Greg, it looks like Sebastian's got a good head on his shoulders and is one of those players you just love to have in your team, not just because of the quality that he brings, but just the mentality as well. And Pedro Vite, another name to recognize out there, 23-year-old Ecuadorian midfielder for them, 4 goals, 6 assists for this season so far, which are both career highs in his 4th season with Vancouver. So they're finding value all over the pitch, but they're helmed by some incredibly talented players.
And it's absolutely insane, Jake, that they've been doing this well without Ryan Gault. When looking at this, I didn't realize how long he's been out. He sprained his left knee back on March 8th. He's just now getting into back on the field somewhat, but he's not even 100%. I was reading a couple of articles about it in the past week, and he's their captain. And this is a guy that they've been doing an extremely good job as a team so far without him. And when they add him back, he's going to be an interesting piece.
Remember him, and sorry to cut you off.
No.
I think we watched him, Justin, in person at City Park last year. I'm calling it City Park because it was. And I remember just him slicing our defenders for breakfast. I mean, he is an animal on the pitch. He's physical. He has that final pass just on lock. He was such a dangerous player, an absolute killer. So I'm not going to miss him. But I cannot believe, like you said, what they're doing in a season where they really have been without him.
Yeah, Jake, I think he has less than 200 minutes. I don't even know if he's played. 199 minutes.
Wow.
That memory is still kicking. He's started 3 games for them, and that was all the way back at the beginning of the season, like I said. So he has not played since March 8th. Still on the comeback, still trying to make it through. Would not be surprised if he comes back in the last couple games of the season. But Jesus, that is a guy that they are missing, and they are still doing extremely well. The 29-year-old from Scotland, their DP, that's a tough one, and I wish that we could play that well without our DP.
I do too. Well, who are we going to play with in this 11, Justin, as we head to Vancouver? Hop on the flight. Let's crack into the Hoffman Brothers starting 11. Hoffman Brothers, the presenting sponsor for ball watching in 2025, and presenting themselves to you probably on all your neighborhoods and roadways. It is very much still that season of the year, folks. Don't be fooled. I hear the weather is supposed to kind of break tomorrow. This is time of recording Tuesday evening. Who knows, man? It could be back in the 90s before you know it. And I've seen all of these trucks and vans servicing all of my neighbors and residents around me. And I hope they're servicing you, because they are just the most quality products, some of the best customer service and experience that I've had with them. Every technician has been a delight to work with, and super, super helpful in kind of helping me wrap my head around what's going on under the roof. But you guys name it, your ducts cleaning, end of season, air quality products, air scrubbers, all that types of stuff, anything under the roof, Hoffman Brothers should be your first call. So make sure you reach out to them at 314-664-3011 or visit them online at hoffmanbros.com.
Yeah, Jake, these ladies and gentlemen, I have been finally getting back into the gym, but Planet Fitness in Brentwood, see there. Say hi. But I go right by Hoffman Brothers all the time, and they're just pumping out. It's like, who is waking up for these guys to come take care of them? But they're doing it because it's white glove service. So if you haven't already, call 314-664-3011 or visit them at hoffmanbros.com. Don't believe that the weather's actually going to break. It's still August in St. Louis. We have September. We have October. It's going to be there. So call them. So, Jake, who's going to be our Hoffman Brothers presenting starting 11? I think you let me go last time. Let's throw Berkey in the back. And then what are you doing with your back four?
Because he's been playing, and he's been playing well, and I have to think that if he's playing this much, we do have plans for him to become a permanent City player. Padelford. I'm going to go back to Padelford at left back. I'm going to give Fall the start on this one, and I'm going to start Kessler alongside him give Timo the night off here. And again, not because I think Fall, we said some nice things about him last show, and I've said some nice things online. Still think he's very special, definitely raw, and going to have his moments. But I think this is a good game to throw him into. He was a little more rested than the last one. And I'm going to go to Totland. Like, it's the obvious decision. It's looking you right in the face, Dave. Make the decision. Like, Totland should be the guy on the right back. I think I might have a change to my midfield here, Justin, but I'll pause there. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just like that you're just like, Dave. Just referring to the head coach of City, Critchley, as, come on, Dave.
It's right. We're tight like that. We're tight like that.
All right. What else you got?
I have in here, Justin, I had Leuven and Morales as the anchoring central midfielders. I might be changing my mind live here. And hear me out. I might stick with Leuven. And so we had Morales. I know you put Dirk in there as well as a consideration. That's who was their last match. I'd be tempted to consider Wallum here. And that's because I feel like the Leuven-Wallum experience, while definitely still shaky at times, was more than what I saw in the Leuven-Durkin experience last week. And Wallum is totally different. Like, not the best passer, I think still better than Durkin. A great dribbler, better than Durkin. Can contribute more going forward, definitely better than Durkin. Does he have the same defensive mettle? I'll give that edge to Durkin. But could I take that and have Leuven kind of fill in some of that muscle as well? So I'd be open to seeing Leuven-Wallum in midfield. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually like that because, in my opinion, I think Durkin has been hacking some guys down, and I want to give as least amount of free kicks as I can to Sebastian Berhalter as possible. And I feel like Durkin has been doing that, and not wrongfully so. I think he's taking guys down, stopping counterattacks, but I think Wallum can have the speed and the wherewithal to try to catch up with these guys. So yeah, as long as he stays home, because we don't want another one of these where Leuven had to play a different game last game because Durkin wasn't getting done when he needed to get done. He needs to be able to say, I trust you, Wallum. You're going to stay here and stay put. I'm going to go float around and ding some balls to the guys up front. Who are we going to go back to what we keep seeing? Sounds like it. Celio on the left, Hartel in the middle, Sangbin on the right, Klaus up top. I know, but are you not just going to go back to Ostrak? Are we taking Celio off? I want Celio. I think what we're going to do is keep that same front four. I think we're going to go Hartel on the left, Ostrak underneath of Klaus, and Sangbin on the right.
It's really hard done on Ostrak to not have him in there, so I think he will maintain his place, especially if we're doing this whole, like, hey, really good performance, you start next game type of meritocracy. So it would suck because I think you have the 10 available for him, but I think Hartel's better there. Or at least I like him more there. We saw more from him last game, like I said, the left wing spot, but you want to see Celio get some more meaningful minutes. And I don't think Ostrak is the partner for Leuven in a game where the midfield, that battle will determine a lot of the result. I think he just might have a tendency to sort of bounce off some of those tackles or not, again, bring in too much spine. So it's risky either way. That's not perfect. I do think he'll go back to the same four that he played. But I would like to see Celio get there and maybe shift Hartel centrally.
No, I like that as well, because I think if you don't feel like the locker room vibes are high, there's nothing worse than letting a guy that just scored a goal, he's playing well, and then saying, "Hey, you're on the bench," and the question is why. And it's like, well, I'm going to give another guy a chance. Well, why is that the chance now? Because not only are you going to have Ostrak questioning that, it's going to be other guys as well. So I think right now he's getting that starting spot, and he's deserved it. So, Jake, what are your goals and predictions for this game?
My goal, my goal for the game first is I put a different phrase in here, but guys, we're so far down in the standings. I just want us to have that factor into how we approach some of these games in the end of the season, because I've heard kind of quickly make reference to it as well. Like, with where we are, like this is how we should approach games. And I agree. Like, we have nothing to lose, but just games that ultimately don't matter anymore for us. So we should be taking every game as a learning opportunity, like a significant learning opportunity with we have so much cushion here. Like, we can fail. No one expects anything from us right now. We don't need any results anymore because we're out of the picture. So let's focus on developing ourselves and getting something in place that works, that we can go back to and build on for 2026 and beyond. So I want us to play like that, like play experimental, play free, like don't play scared. We see a lot of scared on the field. Like, if we go up, great. Let's score 5 more. Let's not sit back and defend, and try not to concede a goal. We know what's going to happen. Let's go tack on another 5. Like, I think Critch is trying to push them in that direction, but we got to see them turn the corner, and maybe it's here.
And Jake, I agree with that. When we say that Critch is trying to push them in that direction, it's got to come with the subs as well. We cannot be making subs to try to be more defensive in a game that we're starting to have momentum on. And I think we saw that and we've seen it in the past couple games. But I agree with you. I think at this one, it's my key to the game is have the mentality of why not? Why not do something? Why not take a chance? What's the worst that's going to happen, Jake? We're going to get dunced 3-0 in Vancouver. Oh, no. Like, what's going to happen? So you might as well just go for it. When you're out there, give it your all. These guys are fighting for contracts. We already talked about Ostrak. Chat City Tactics put out a great little piece that shows you that we don't have a whole lot of guys signed through next year. We can see this team turned over almost 80% in the next 2 years. So you need to be able to fight and explain why you need to be on this team. I'm going to go with a 3-2L, Jake. I think I had a 3-1L in this. I just don't think that we're going to go up there and win. It's going to be a tough one. The odds makers also agree with that there. I'm just looking at DraftKings on this, Jake. We're plus 390 money line, which, you know what I like to take with that then? The double chance at plus 150. Still kind of tough. I'll probably just stray away from that and just do a little quick sign of the cross and go with City over 1.5 at plus 155 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, even though Vancouver has been a great defense. Like, we've also been a good expected offense, at least. Maybe not a good real offense at all times. I'm also going with you, Justin. I'm going to go 2-1 loss on this. I do think offensively we're going in the right direction in terms of just getting more of our attacking players. But defensively, again, we've been a little bit shambolic. And when you're shambolic against a heavy metal midfield and attackers that know how to score and experience galore from Thomas Mueller, you could be in for a long night. And I hope that we are in the most positive way possible. We learn a lot. We stick together and we fight tooth and nail for every inch in Vancouver. Because, again, I don't think they entered this game being like, oh, St. Louis is coming to town. Like, got to take this one seriously. They got one step in the MLS Cup playoffs already. They've done a lot this season. Maybe they'll take a little overlooking on us. And can you pounce on that and make them pay for it?
Absolutely. And I think this is the one, Jake, where, you know what? We both just kind of predicted that we're going to lose, but I actually could see us just somehow just sneaking one out of here as well. So you know that I'm going to be tuned in. I'm excited for it. Why not go watch this team? At least it's been exciting soccer, and I think it's something that we can really push towards and try to root towards the rest of the season, because we're not making the playoffs. So why not at least hope for these boys to end up winning a game? And so, Jake, one thing I did want to round out with real quick, for anybody that missed it at the beginning, we are also helping promote the Project Wake Up annual Ryan Candace Memorial Golf Tournament. It is going to be on Saturday, October 11th. The early bird special, $700 for a foursome. Sounds like a lot, but you get lunch, snacks, beer, seltzers, soft drinks all day long. And guess what? If you sign up and DM us that you prove that you signed up since listening to this episode, I will Venmo you $200 to reduce that price. Your foursome will be $500 if you sign up using the early bird special prior to Monday, this coming Monday. You can either Venmo them or sign up using their email address. So feel free to reach out to us and prove that, and I'll send you a quick $200.
Good stuff, Justin. Thanks for joining today, everyone tuning in. If you'd like to listening to, make sure you throw us a subscribe or a rating, review, whatever, on Apple, Spotify, what have you, YouTube. Throw us a subscribe, like the video, give us some feedback, drop us a comment. What have you been liking about the City performances the last couple weeks and months under Critchley? Does he deserve to be considered for 2026? Let us know. Give us those takes. We love seeing it from you all. We appreciate you listening.
Yeah, give us the takes, give us the questions. Guess what, guys? We're going to be doing this podcast through the rest of the season, and soon we're going to be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So give us something else to talk about, because I'm excited.
Yeah. Maybe we'll bring that the five aside and start talking about the top five cereals.
What's your favorite animal? Yeah.
All right, man. Well, pleasure as always. Thank you all for tuning in. And in the meantime, we're all for City.
All for City.